all of your labs right now are able to dial from the SIP phone to the H23 phone. Let me review the configuration. Or actually, let me trace in Session Manager now that you're able to place that call. Go ahead, please, in lab 1, call from...
Wait, we just did, we could call from the H323 to the SIP.
Yeah. Actually,
not vice versa, right?
No, actually at this point you should be able to call from any...
Yeah, because we set up a dialing.
We set up the dial pattern.
Yeah, as long as you identify CM as a SIP entity and create an entity link with CM, and when you create the SIP run from CM to Session Manager, as long as routing using AAR, then you're able to place a call from the H23 phone to the SIP phone.
But the SIP back you had to have the dialing pattern.
You need to have a dial pattern and a network routing policy in Session Manager for that one to take place.
Session Manager, CM.
So let's try now. Let's see, in lab 1, go ahead please, Alex, dial from the SIP phone to the H23. So that's going to be 1401, right?
Yes, sir.
And we'll see here if that goes through. Okay, and I see it going through, and let me get rid of some
Kentucky
options,
Fried
messages.
Extra crispy or original recipe?
So here we see the invite. Notice that we see the first invite, right? Going from what? 1204 to Session Manager. I'm gonna open up that invite, and I see that I have SDP information.
Yeah.
Right? And I see here that the phone is offering first G722, then PCMU. PCMU is pretty much a G711.
Yeah, uncompressed.
Yeah, PCMU because it's MULO, PCMA because it would be ALO.
Yeah.
Then the other option is G726,
32-bit.
G729, and the telephone event 120, which you now know is for DPMF.
Is that the response? Or is that
That's the offer.
That's the offer.
That's the offer.
So I thought the invite was always the destination.
The invite in this case comes from 1204,
The origination.
which is the SIP phone, and goes to Session Manager, right?
Oh, that's my front.
Yeah, and it's not a delayed offer
I
because
see.
you're offering it first.
The phone is, yeah, this is
Right.
an early offer.
Okay.
It's an early offer.
Yeah, and
Take it or leave it.
Session Manager first rejects that, and then the next invite is pretty much the same invite, and then Session Manager says 100 trying, and finally Session Manager routes that to Lab 10 CM. I mean, the fact that you see this invite going from Session Manager to CM shows you that your Session Manager routing is okay, right? The network routing policy is working fine because you just get to see that invite leaving your Session Manager and going to your CM. Now, there is something interesting in this trace. There is something interesting in this trace. And if I press R, you're going to see the interesting thing. Notice that there are two RTP strings. Two of them for G711. But the first one, the one that you see here, is between the SIP phone and, well, you don't know that IP address, but that's the media gateway. So initially, for the ringback tone, you know, before the call is established, the gateway is the one providing the DSP channel. As you can see, so you can see here with this G711 string, you can see it's between the phone and this IP address, which happens to be the IP address of the G430 that we have there. So I can tell that because of that, initially the one providing the DSP channel in CM was not the H23 phone, but the gateway. And then there is a re-invite. In Avaya, re-invites are sent to modify the body of the message, which in this case it would be an SDP message. So in that re-invite, Notice that that reinvite no longer happened in early offer. You see, because there is no SDP. So that reinvite, if I don't find the SDP offer in the reinvite, where would I find the offer? Do you remember?
Okay.
And the 200K, you would find the offer, and in the acknowledge, you would find the response. So I would have to go to the 200K, and I'm gonna find the offer there. And this is an offer to change now, and instead of using the DSP channel in the gateway, we're trying to change, so that the DSP channel is now the one in the phone itself. So that's the offer. Here is the answer in the acknowledge. And because of that, then we have the two phones communicating directly. So again, in SIP, and not in SIP, but in Avaya uses reinvites to renegotiate SDP information. In SIP, you could do that with an update as well. The update method could be used to update SDP information. Avaya decided to use the reinvite instead, which is another way to accomplish that. Okay, and that call happened using G711. Notice that CM here was the one with the final answer, because the final answer to that reinvite was in the acknowledge and is coming from CM. So this reinvite happened in the delayed offer, and the final answer about the codec to be used was on CM. And if you check, probably CM has an IP codec set right now where the only option is G711. Okay, makes sense? G711 is probably the only option in that CM. Now another thing we could do, since we're in a lab environment, I'm going to stop the trace, start the trace, but this time I want to see call processing messages. Remember, those internal messages that in a production environment, you need to be careful with those, because those could have a negative performance impact on Session Manager, because I'm going to get to see way more messages. But I just want to do it here so that you get to see the internal decisions in Session Manager for Session Manager to route that call to CM. So go ahead, let me see, let's redial here. What was the
1401.
1401. Blah blah blah. Now you see the internal decisions Session Manager made before sending that invite. You see, before sending the invite to the CM, you see that Session Manager first found an originating location. It's called Lab 1. Then it tried to match with a dial pattern, and boom, it found a dial pattern. It found a match. You see, dial pattern found. And the dial pattern that found was this one, pattern 14. The dial number matched with the dial pattern. See? Since it matched with a dial pattern, the dial pattern is associated to a routing policy. So right away, it matched with a routing policy. That's why it says routing policy found. See? And then you just use that route to send the invite to that SIP entity, which happens to be CM.
You looking at the diagram right now?
I'm looking at I was looking at these highlighted messages in green, just trying to see the different decisions that Session Manager took before sending the invite to CM.
Since we'll probably be looking at this when there's a problem, can we dial a wrong number and see the difference?
Yeah.
Like a number that's not programmed?
Yeah, let's try, it's a good idea. Let's try, for example, let's try from the SIP phone. Because right now I don't think that your CM has routing to go to other labs. Only to dial from the AC23 phone to the...
It's like 1231, something that doesn't exist. It's not in a dial.
Yeah, but let's try actually, now that I have this enabled.
That's the H223.
Oh,
Yeah, you want to try this one?
so let's try another lab. Like for example, 2401. Okay, and let's take a look at the internal decisions in Session Manager. Well, at the end you see that there is a route not found in red, right? But if you get to see internal decisions in Session Manager, you first see that it's able to match with an originating location. So the location is lab 1. And then it tries to match with a dial pattern. It can't.
No.
It tries to match with a regular expression. It can't. Notice that it does it again. Does the same thing again. And it doesn't find anything. And then at the end says route not found. There is no route configuring Session Manager to route to that number. What was the number, by the way? If I go to the invite, I can see here, kind of hard to see, but I can see here that the dial number was 2401. Now, in traceSM, even without opening the invite, here there is a summary of the to header, from header, and the request URI. So quickly, you know, like without opening the invite, I can tell right away that this invite was going to 2401, coming from 1201, and the request URI was 2401. It's like an easy, quick way to tell what's the from and the to header and the request URI. Make sense? Okay, what else can we see here? That's it. Also wanted to show you, I'm gonna turn the lights on before you fall asleep.
What? Huh? Who?
Especially the three of us, you know, because we eat so much.
I
So
know,
it's
4 or 5 beers.
before I fall asleep. I want to go through the configuration that you have in CM, because you kind of follow a recipe, but I want to make sure that you understand what you did. So you first configure your dial plan analysis, right? A lot of entries are actually not needed because we're not going to use them, but I know that the slide told you to do it, like attendant. We're not going to be calling an attendant. Pretty much the entries that you need so far is this one to identify the extension numbers in your lab. And later you may use these other entries if you want to call from your CM to the other labs. But so far the only one that you need for this exercise is this one and the DAC to be able to assign a trunk access code later to the trunk. Okay, so you have that one, and then you have in the uniform dial plan an entry right now that's going to allow you to reach your SIP phones. Because right now, this entry is for you to call from the H223 phone to the SIP phone. So it knows that whenever you dial something that starts with 12, 4 digits in length, an AAR table is going to be invoked, right? If I check the AAR table, you're saying that whenever you receive something that starts with 12, which is for the SIP phones here in this lab, right? Yours start with 42. Minimum for this, maximum 4 digits, use route pattern 1. And yours, the call type is unknown because you're going to be formatting the number with the private number in table later. At this point, we could set it to AAR as well and it would work. Route pattern 1 says that trunk group 1 is going to be the one that's going to be used, right? We have no FRL, and that's it. Now, if I take a look at the signaling group, you're going to see that it's a SIP type, and it's using TLS. This needs to match with whatever was configured as an entity link between Session Manager and CM. Not only the protocol, but the ports. I mean, these 2 ports here need to match the configuration that you have here in your lab for entity links. I mean, need to match these 2 ports. If they don't match, the entity link is going to be down. Makes sense. Another thing that maybe you wonder why you configure this is this domain. In this case, for outbound calls, calls going from CM and going to session manager, CM is going to use this domain to create the to header and the request URI. Because remember, at this point, you're placing a call from an H23 phone that goes to CM, and CM needs to convert the signaling from H23 to zip. So it needs to create all of those zip headers somehow. So it's going to use this domain that you see here. If I go to Session Manager and get to see the invite, well, actually, that would be for when the call is coming from CM. In this case, it was coming from a zip phone. But if I'm going to clear this and place the call now from CM, 1203, 1204.
1204.
Now that the call is coming from CM, CM is able to send it to Session Manager because it creates a zip message. And what I'm trying to say is that the domain here in the request URI, I mean this domain that you see here, is created with the domain in the signaling group. Okay? This converge1.com in the request URI is created with that, as well as the domain in the to header. Where is the to header? Here. 1204 at converge1.com. That's created again with this domain, the domain in the signaling group configured here in the far end domain. Another domain that you had to configure was the domain in the IP network region. This domain. Right? That's the only thing you did in that network region. That's going to be the network region associated to the H23 phones. And Session Manager is going to use that domain. Again, for when the call is coming from CM, it's going to use that domain to create the from header. Where is, actually in this case, it's going to be to create the P asserted identity header, the PAI. This one here. It was not able to create correctly the from header because we haven't yet specified the private number in table in CM. Later we'll specify that. You'll see that the from header is no longer going to be anonymous at anonymous. Remember that the private number in table somehow allows you to specify stuff related to the caller ID, right? Right now it's coming from anonymous at anonymous because we haven't set up that table yet. But later CM will use that table to specify the domain here and not the domain. He'll use that table to specify the extension number here, and he'll use the domain in the IP network region to specify the domain here. Okay. That's pretty much what you configure in CM, all of those tables that I just showed you.
Esther, when you get a chance, can we trace mine? Because I can.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, give me trouble. I want to troubleshoot. So let's trace. I'm going to open up your lab, which is 30.8. That's your session manager. Customer, cost 1234. Let's see if we can all troubleshoot this together. Let me change the appearance a little bit of the font size. 14. Apply a little bit better. And traceSM. And I'm capturing.
Okay, I could do that one. It's the other way around.
Okay, that one is the one coming from CM, right?
Uh-huh.
That one works. Let's try the other one.
32.
Awesome.
Dialing pad.
So let's see.
No routes.
All right.
No trunks up because it works for the other route.
It says 404 not found. There is no route. Let's actually take advantage that let's see by looking at the internal messages in Session Manager, we have a bit.
It actually doesn't say no route found, which is different than no route available, right? Because you could have a route, and that route needs, that trunk route be out, and it would be the same area, there's no route available, right?
It would be different, yeah. If there is a route found, but the route is down, the entity link is down, it would be a different error.
It would be different.
Yeah. I'm gonna stop the trace, start the trace, but this time I also wanna capture call processing messages. Just for academic purposes. You don't wanna do that in a production environment. But let me clear the screen and go ahead and place that call one more time.
That's usually.
And hopefully you can all see there.
That's the
The
one
other
that
one.
worked. Yeah,
Oh, that's
dial it the
all, I'm
other way.
sorry.
That's the one.
But,
You got too many phones.
Yeah.
Get your redial button on this one.
Let me see. That's the one coming from CM. That's the one
yeah,
working.
sorry about that.
Go ahead and place it there.
Yeah, it's 6 here.
So what's he dialing? Jesse dialing?
Dialing, Jesse's dialing from the SIP phone to CM. Let's see. So that gets to session manager and help me here.
There's no network route.
Yeah, but the problem is that it doesn't match with a dial pattern. It doesn't find a dial pattern that matches, and therefore it never finds a routing policy.
Right, so dollar pattern.
You see the fact that you never see dial pattern found
Right.
tells you that your problem is in your dial pattern. So let's go right away.
A lack of information indicates the problem. It doesn't, that's gonna be rough right there.
Yeah, that's true. That's because I already know that it should. Yeah.
No, it's not there.
You're right. Let me see. So if I go to your lab, Jesse, dial patterns, you have a dial pattern. Actually, it looks okay so far, but
Maybe it's
there's
not as
some
strong.
sort of problem. And let's see if you're able to find the problem here.
There's
Is
no
it
items in the
24/7
denied
first?
originating locations?
There's 3-4, is that your lab 3?
I didn't see the route policy in there.
Let's see. There was no routing policy. Yeah, SM to CM. Dial pattern.
Time range, did you look at time range?
Go back to the routing policy for a second.
Routing policy.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing at the bottom.
Let's
Open
see.
that up. Does it have the
The pattern.
dial pattern
Yes.
Yeah.
established?
3-4, 4-4. And you already looked at the time range, right? 24/7?
24/7. That looks good to me.
Wait, you see that on this page? Oh, I see it now, yeah. Time of day, 24/7's all checked.
Interesting. So let's go back to the trace. Sorry. But this looks all good to me.
Yeah, I don't see
No?
the bug.
The way I read the routing policies, by the way, I like to, when I open up the routing policy page, I like to read from bottom to top. Meaning that when this session manager receives something that starts with 34,
Right.
minimum of 4 digits, maximum of 4 digits, and the zip domain is converse1.com.
Is 34 the right digits?
Yep.
Yeah, to go to see it.
Right,
Yeah, and
Right.
from any originating location, because it said 2.
32.
It should be 32.
Should be 32.
Huh?
It's
32.
32 is his dial pattern,
Yeah.
that's what's incorrect.
He's
Yeah,
dialing a
yeah.
32
Yeah.
number.
He's got
No, because this is the one that goes to CM.
34 is fine.
34 is fine. Yours should be 14, 24, 34,
Right,
44.
right, right.
That's fine.
This is
That's,
in CM where the second digit was 4.
so when this
So
happens,
he's down from the SIP to the CM.
when all of this happens, and it's within this time
I got you.
of,
Yeah, I
of
got you.
day,
You're right.
which is true,
I'm slow.
then send it to that zip entity as destination. So I see that the routing policy is well configured. Let's go back to the trace, because this one is an interesting one. Let's go back to the trace and try to see. It's, let's see, it finds an originating location, lab 3, that's fine. But it can't match with a dial.
Does it help to look at the trace in CM too?
That could, let me see, that no, because it never goes to CM. It never reaches
Right, 'cause
CM.
There's no route. Right.
Yeah. So,
Well, we know the trunk group's up in this case, right? Because it's called from the other direction.
could, yeah, route not found. I mean, you could see, let's see something
Hang on.
that was
Look
down.
At the station. Hang on a minute. Look at those numbers. The front of the two,
32.
32 and 32.
That should be
In the
34.
It should be 34. Were
No.
you dialing the right number?
No, in the SIP, you're
No.
32.
Because, right. The
Ah,
CM
you're right, you're dialing
It's
the wrong
32,
number.
32. It's just
Because
down the wrong number.
34.
it's just that you're dialing the wrong number.
I'm
You're
dialing the
dialing.
3204 that shows.
No,
here.
but it's 30. Let me see. What's your
That's what it
H23 for?
is. Yeah, because the second digit that we had configured for the CMs were fours.
So you built 32, you need to.
Ah, that's what the problem is. Is that he ended up building a 3201 instead of a 3401
In CM.
in CM. Yeah. So that's what the problem is.
User.
And it should have been 34.
3401.
For your H323 station.
401.
Right? Because let's see, in your CM,
Because the dial patterns aren't matching.
Right,
yeah.
so it's finding no route found because of that.
Yeah, because you're saying that's only for 34, not
Right.
for
You ever done
32.
a change extension?
Huh?
You ever done a change extension?
Or something you could do, actually take a look at this. If you open it up, don't change anything. If you right now say, hey, you know what? Not only 34, but 3.
Change to 3.
And they'll take everything.
That should work.
Right.
Everything
That
else
should
is
work.
different.
Now, be aware that as soon as I commit here, this is not necessarily completely replicated to session manager. I need to wait a little bit. Normally what I do is I come here quickly, and if within 10 seconds, I don't see this changing to synchronizing, it means that it already synchronized, you know? And this is probably the case, it already synchronized. So now it should be the,
There's a log you can go to see when it's synchronized, is that right?
no, there was a way, maybe there's a log that I don't know, but before there was a way to go to session manager and see stuff that was in session manager, but Avaya closed that door now.
So-
Just kidding.
Registry routing always is looked at first before dial pattern routing.
So,
No, actually, the way it's kind of strange because the first thing that it checks, and you'll see it on the decision process, is it tries to find a routing policy first.
So did your change to make that only the digit 3 make it impossible for his two SIP phones to call each other? Because they'd look for CM, because that would catch both of them and it would overwrite.
Let's try. We'll see. But that's a good question. I see your question. That's a good question.
They find out right now.
We'll find out. Let's place first the call coming, Jesse, from what was SIP phone to H23.
Okay.
See if that works. That should work now, right?
Routing without making any changes, right?
Yeah, no changes. But now we actually change your dial pattern in session
so
manager.
that worked.
Right, but
And
now
now-
call SIP to SIP.
Yeah,
See
now
if
it's
that
able
works.
to match with a route here. And it finds a dial pattern, right? Pattern 3. That's expected. The one that I'm curious about is the one that you say, what about SIP to SIP? Let's see the logic here in session manager.
What was it, 3202?
Yeah.
That was, no, that was something else. Because
Yeah,
you
it
just
was
dialed
just
7.
an off vote.
Yeah.
That works.
Now,
Yeah, 'cause registry.
but now if you
Yeah,
add a
that's-
station in CM, the same station
Right,
number
because
could
it's
have
a
a
SIP
problem,
registry,
right?
it's SIP registry, because you don't have to go to a doc plan.
No, hold on. What happened there?
Doesn't use NRP.
Because it
Does
didn't
not
find
use
the
NRP.
station in CM.
Right, it doesn't use NRP because it's a SIP to SIP
Yeah,
flow.
let's study this for a second.
No, this is kind of awkward because it did send the invite. Now this is actually not very well configured now, the way I did it,
Right.
because notice that it does match with this routing policy, right? Because it checks first for routing
So
policies.
did it send it to CM?
That's what they're
It matches with that one, but doesn't send it to CM, but instead send it to the phone.
Well, if he was to add a station in CM, the same station as that, with that, what happens?
3201.
Add a 3201 in CM, do you have 3201 already in CM?
3201?
Or whatever that was you're dialing?
Yeah, 3201 is,
This is 3202.
no, 3202.
Yeah, I don't have to.
3202, can you add that?
That's the two.
Dupe it or whatever you want to do.
So,
What do you want me to do?
No, notice what happened here. This is a good one. It found first a policy. You say it has route policy found, but then it checks internal the SIP registry table, and it found another route that goes directly to the destination, to the other SIP phone. So it replaced that
so
one.
it is like it chooses. It's similar to what I think of in change dial parameters, where it's local first instead of uni.
Yeah.
You know, where you can have it do uni first
Yeah.
instead. So,
It looks like here is uni first and then local.
so it found it, ignored it pretty much, because it found a better one a second later.
Yeah, yeah.
Millisecond later.
Yeah.
Oh, this one.
But this does show you that it checked first for external routing, right?
Yeah.
It match, but then it looks for internal routing using race-through routing, and that's why I found this route here
Second extension.
that says, hey,
So
just
yeah, you may wanna.
let me see if I'm able to open that one up. Yeah, just send it directly to, no, not this one.
Two working phones, and we'll see which one it goes to.
Yeah, so the route was to send it directly to the phone. So it replaced that one. It replaced the one going out to CM with this one. It updated that. Nice test. And what's the test you want to try, Wayne?
It's going to make a CM station 3202. So there's both the session manager SIP station and the CM station, and see which choice it makes.
Okay. Oops.
From what we just looked at, I'm thinking it's going to find the SIP phone and not try CM.
Because it's local first.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's
Ah,
like
hold on. So
local
he's
first.
gonna have two phones,
Two
right?
3202s.
Two
Like a
3202.
misconfiguration. They didn't look at SM, and that darn customer made a 3202.
According to what we saw, he's gonna try the one. He's gonna try the one in CM.
It didn't.
He didn't try the. Ah, no, sorry.
Yeah,
He's gonna try the one in session manager because he's gonna update that. Yeah.
Try it again.
That takes precedence.
Yeah.
Before job plan.
Good test. I like that test.
It will not go to CM.
Because it still probably sees that.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's, duplication is very possible and probable.
Let me see. Which one was this one here? That was the exhibit.
I know, I did. Went in the CM and added.
Yeah, but because you unplug it, but probably the registration is still active for a few
Yeah,
minutes.
try 3202 again from that.
Maybe I should have logged it out. So I'm plugging it.
Probably better. That way you for sure
Found.
finish the registration.
Yeah, I should have logged it out. We'll
Let's
wait
see.
I'll let mine log it out.
So 500 server internal error. But it looks like because of, notice again how the first route policy that finds is the one that goes to CM, right? And then it updates that with this route found, which is something related to SIP registry routing and the entry there. This is the IP address
Trying
of
to
the
get
SIP.
3202.
Yeah, the SIP 3202, and then session manager answers with the 500 server internal error.
I'm looking at it, I'm trying to see it as the way that dial plan analysis works in CM with the universal dial plan.
Yeah.
Where you say,
Uni
look at this
first.
first or look at that
Yeah.
first.
That's how
We,
I
we
plan it
just
too. It's
did, we
different.
just saw the behavior. Here, it's kind of reverse.
Yeah.
And I know the table, the table he's mentioning right now is the dial plan analysis table in CM,
Yeah.
which by default says
You wouldn't see
local extensions first,
Right.
right? But you could change that, right? To have that as UDP table first. The way we're seeing in the trace things happening is that first external things are evaluated, and then, however, if there's an internal thing with the same URI,
It takes that.
that updates whatever routes CM found, and now it delivers the message there.
Kind of like analyzes.
Kind of
everything.
like if you were having here UDP first.
Right.
Kind of like UDP first, and then internal.
I'll try to log this one off for just a second here now. I know when we first started recording H323 sets and you're going through this and you're going, this is better than digital how.
Yeah. I went through that.
I could have put
right
in
now.
43 phones already.
So, yeah, that's.
Something I can do before you log in. Let's see how if I go in lab 3 to session manager, system status, user registrations, let's see if Session Manager still thinks that phone is registered, and it does, you see?
It is registered
You want me to
now.
log out now?
So let's, log it out.
I mean, it
and
will
see
probably
what happens.
eventually, this is interesting. So it still thinks that the phone is registered.
Well, it
because he just
actually was
unplugged
at
it.
that time. He got it back in.
He got it, okay, so log out.
So now refresh and let's see that go away.
This usually takes some time, it's not immediately, but it should.
Well, I mean, why would it be immediate? It's just a computer.
Now it's gone.
There we go. Now dial from 3202 from that rate phone.
Hold on, I want to trace. Okay, go ahead.
So we don't have something routed.
Yeah, the thing is that now
It's remembered that existence.
because it finds a user profile, we would have to remove the user profile. It knows there is a user profile, but it knows that it's not registered, and that's why it gives you the 480 temporarily unavailable, user
Yeah.
not registered.
Okay.
At least that's a very clear error
Yeah,
there.
that is clear.
As mud.
Nice, I like all
And we
this.
would have seen that. That's not part of the call, display call.
Yeah, that one
would
would.
have shown
That
without
one would, because
being in this other mode.
if I get rid of those, let me show you, minus NA, you would still see the temporarily unavailable for 8.
So the bottom line is, there's no harm done if a customer went into CM and tried to add a SIP phone instead of system manager. It's not going to work, but it's not going to stop it from working if you add it correctly in system manager.
Yeah, the duplication isn't gonna, session manager will keep it close, but you know what, if there was another
But
H323 phone,
yeah.
it would
Or
have, so
anything in
both,
CM, anything
both
in
would have
CM.
kept them local.
Anything
If there
in
was a
CM.
duplicate,
Everything
any
in
SIP
CM
phone,
would've
so if there
saw
were,
that.
if there were
Oh,
two
okay.
3202s,
Yeah.
one's H323 and one SIP, any SIP phone calling 3202 would reach the SIP partner phone, SIP phone, and any CM phone would reach the CM H323 phone. That would be weird.
Probably happened a lot more.
I would think that System Manager at some point is going to have some bigger picture approach to the dial plan, so
No.
that it sees
Remember
the
one
CM
thing, right?
dial
These
plan.
SIP phones are not related to CM. This is not a normal Avaya
us,
SIP
normal.
phone, huh?
Not for us normal, but.
Yeah,
we've got a
yeah,
lot-
but there, could be.
Well, we've got a lot of customers that do have funky Polycom SIP
Stream,
sound station
cheap
gizmos,
sound, you know.
Yeah.
these fancy,
And that'll
crazy
happen
conference
more
phones.
than often.
And those are gonna be simple.
With time, yeah, that's gonna happen.
Yeah, those aren't
more
gonna be,
often.
those won't be ASTs.
Yeah.
It will not. You can't do that without the same
Sure.
PBX though. Because when you create the extension in System Manager, it trickles down into CM.
To CM, yeah.
So it creates the station in CM.
Yeah.
But it's out of service.
It's out of service,
So
there's
you
no
can't,
job.
right, yeah, so you can't go in and build the same extension.
You can build extensions.
You could,
in
There is a
CM.
feature that allows you to do it actually. It's known as dual
You
registration.
could build
Allows you
a
to register an
CM, build a
H223
system
phone and a
manager,
SIP phone to
and
the
build
same
it. You
extension
would-
number in CM.
No, what I'm saying is, if it's built in System Manager first,
Right, if that's done first.
Right.
But if it's in CM first.
Okay, good test. Now, at this point,